Okay. How are you all going? That's excellent. This time last week I was at the State of Origin. Bit different. Was anyone else at the State of Origin last week? All right. Do you think we can win Game 3? I like that. Who else watched it? People watched State of Origin last... Isn't that great? Aren't we modern people? We can embrace the last bastion of gladiatorial warfare in rugby league and also be here to ponder what it is to paint a portrait. God bless us. I often found that in my career that, because I'm from Cronulla and I love meat pies and beer and rugby league, but at the same time, I love ballet and I love French poetry and I love art. And often I found that a complication. I often felt like I had to choose one or the other, and in this country you can't be a creative person who ponders the universe and also a suburban, loutish, rugged type, and I've never understood why. So I've always been trying to find my purpose in the world, and I think maybe that is my purpose, is to, I don't know, keep spreading the word that it's okay to think and watch rugby league. Anyway, so get behind me in this cause. I don't know anything about art, so I have about painting, so I have no idea why they chose me to be here. I've never painted a painting, but thank you for having me. I'm going to talk a little bit about portraiture. I've been painted 3 times for the Archibald. I'm officially retiring here tonight before you all. I'm wrapping it up, let some other guys have a crack. The first time I was painted for the Archibald was by one of my mate's wives. He doesn't have a lot of wives, but my mate's wife. And it's pretty hard to resist when your mate goes, "Oh, my wife wants to paint you." You can't. Oh, really? All right. And so I sat for her, and it was this enormous, very bright, colourful kind of fruit salad version of my head, and it didn't get in. And it's still in their house as you enter. I think it's causing complications because they keep asking me if I want it, and I thought maybe I should get all 3, put one on the roof, one on the wall, one behind the bed, and just have like a museum of me in my house. Be like, ladies, welcome. You know what I'm saying? And the next one I was painted by this wonderful woman called Megan Series, and that's when I was hung, I think a few years ago, and Megan was a sister to a woman called Fiona Series, who's one of my closest friends, and I wrote, we were 2 of the writers on Love My Way, and she did all the art for Claudia Carvin's character. She painted all the paintings for her. I don't know if any of you know the series, but, and Megan, when I was playing Hamlet down at the Opera House there, she said, could I paint you for the Archibald? I mean, she didn't say it whilst I was on stage. She waited like it was during the day. She has this amazing process, Megan, and I was deeply fascinated by the way she painted because she wanted to paint the darkness of this young man. And so what she does, and what resulted in the painting is my face kind of appearing out of this blackness. And she does all these coats of white, and she does another 10 with the roller. And then she does all this black. So you have quite a lot of paint there. And then she gets this kind of scraping, chiseling device and chisels away at the black. And little by little, my face came out of this blackness. And it was one of the most amazing, watching her paint, and I watched her do a lot of stuff for Claudia's character, and she did girls falling through the water, and I bought this painting off her of a girl working down a stairwell, and she chiselled it all. And there was something incredible about how she came up with such a unique style, but it really suited, I guess, how I was feeling about Hamlet at the time and where I was at mentally. After I finished Hamlet, I was very sad for 6 months, and I ended up going to see a psychologist, and he said, "You've got post-Hamlet depression." And I thought of this idea for a movie where you could get like 6 Hamlets and they all come together in this weird castle and they're all kind of depressed and start comparing. Anyway, it didn't have any legs. But so that was a phenomenal, and it was a real privilege to be hung in the gallery. And then this year, an artist called Alan Jones, not the radio show host, painted me. This guy is a bloody genius and a lovely man. I've known him for a long time, and I was the first time he's tried out for the Archibald, and we ended up in the SH Urban Gallery at the Salon de Refusé, celebration of failure in art. And it was a magnificent night. It's an amazing gallery up there on the top of Observatory Hill. And I looked at that painting, because I went in and sat for him, and he's a mate. We had a really nice time, and I was kind of telling him where I was at. And I remember when he called me up, and he speaks quite slow, Brendan, come and have a look. And so I came and had a look, and I remember being quite nervous. You know, it's like going on a blind date with yourself or something. You know, like, it's really weird rolling up to see your painting. And I know the painter, Alan, you're here somewhere, I know. The painter's just as nervous as you are. And I remember just walking into his studio in Waterloo, and I thought, that is my soul. That is exactly how I feel right now in my life. My eyes were alive, but there was a weariness, and I thought, I am getting older, and I know more and I know less, and everything I felt was in that image. And I said that to him, and I said, I have no idea how you do that with a paintbrush. And he just used this black paint and these little strokes. And I said, they're my cheeks, they're my eyes, how do you do that? And I don't know, they're very clever, aren't they, these people? I don't know how they do it. I'm not a visual person, and when I write characters, I don't know what they're wearing. I don't know what colour their hair is. I'm not visual at all. I just feel them, and I know what they want, and I know what they're on about, and they're parts of me. But I've never been able to see them, and I think that's why I've never attempted to draw anything. And even though writing is incredibly visual, metaphor, simile, allegory, it's more of an instinctive thing for me. It's more about the emotional truth than it is the pictures. Well, I've been talking for a while, and I've only covered this little bit here, so sorry about that. It's very Sydney, isn't it, the Archibald? Because it's like, you know, you can go in and hang with the celebrities. It's like Madame Tussauds, you know? It's like visiting a wax version of Kate Blanchett, except it's a painting and she's got tentacles coming out of her head. Anyway, yeah, I've been very honoured to be painted by those 3 people. I think it's a beautiful gesture to paint a face. What a lovely thing to do. And I've been writing movies for the last 7 months, and that's all about the face. And you write plays. Plays are very much about the argument and the dialogue, and it all takes place in one room. And movies are very much about the face, and that's, I guess, why they're called motion pictures, not motion words. And so much can be said in the way a face is photographed, and that's what I'm learning more and more. The paintings that I like in the Archibald are not so much the ones that are about depiction. You can go in there and you can say, wow, that looks a lot like that guy. And I'm less impressed with those ones, and I'm more impressed with the ones that have some kind of conflict within them, and the subject is either in conflict with their environment or themselves or what they want, possibly in conflict with the artist. There's a balance between the artist trying to discover themselves in the subject and the subject's being depicted by the painter. And there you have this kind of rub and this tension of the artist trying to get inside that face and be that face. And they're the ones that I find I can't go past. And there's a mess and an awkwardness, and it's the same on stage and it's the same in television. If there's nothing to worry about, we won't watch it. There's no concern and no conflict, we won't watch it. There needs to be something wrong, and when there's something wrong, behaviour comes out. And I think from all the writing and performance I've done, it's behaviour that we want to watch. And the best paintings, even though they're still lives, you feel like you're witnessing a form of behaviour, I think, because of that battle and because there's a tightrope of tension in there. People, I did that show Q&A a few weeks ago. Geez, that's intense, I tell you. I do a rugby league talk show on Sunday nights, very different. And they were asking, we were talking about responsibility, the responsibility of the artist to construct. And they were talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger and the guy, the French guy, IMF guy, and like all these amazing stories and amazing characters. And what is the artist's responsibility to what is happening in our life? And it's funny because you can look out now, and I'm sure you guys all have the most amazing tales. And anyone can come up to me tonight, and a lot of people do come up to me and say, I've got to tell you about this character. I've got to tell you this story. You've got to make this into a movie. And you cannot. You simply cannot. There's no one else's story that could possibly be mine. Because if you don't connect with it yourself, it doesn't exist. It's a fascinating thing, and that's what I think the responsibility of the artist is to be authentic. And I wrote a book last year called How It Feels, and all the press and everyone's obsessed whether it's my story or not. Is it autobiography? And I think we love true crime, we love underbelly, Australians. For some reason, we want to know if it's real. And I think we have this, a high no bullshit factor in Australia, and we want to know if things are real. And if they're real, we'll watch them. If they're not, we struggle. And everyone was obsessed whether this was my life. And I said, no, it's not my life, but it's me. It's all me. It's all how I see, it's all how I feel, And I think, earlier on in my career, I wrote characters that I thought would be impressive. And I wrote characters that I thought would be dynamic. And I ended up writing characters that terrified me to create because they were me. And they were characters that I knew. And they were people in my life, and they were parts of me. And I've never been so scared when I released How It Feels and I released my play Reuben Guthrie, because I thought there's some of my family are in this and some of myself. But I tell you what, they're the two most successful things I've ever written. And they're the things that have engaged an audience the most. And I think it's because I actually meant it and I actually felt it. And Aristotle said that in Poetics. If you write truly to yourself, everyone will feel it. But I found this thing is like that gave me the ability to write about all these things is that you actually need to step aside and not write biography and create a fictional universe. And it actually allows you to write more about what you feel and what you think than you ever could if you put yourself in it. And that's been something that I've learned a lot about character. And in a lot of ways, that's what the Archibald is. You have somebody stepping away in front of you and constructing you to show who you are. And it's necessary. And I don't think it's a way of protecting yourself. I think it's actually a way of revealing yourself to an audience. It's actually more brave to create a fiction so that you can actually say what you want to say. It's funny though, directing actors. I directed, and the way that actors approach a role, I directed a play called Rabbit. And you've got some actors and they hate the text. They want to get out there and play animal games. And you got the other guys that want very conceptual ways into it and film references and all sorts of things. And other people that don't want to hear too much, they just want verbs. And other people that... And it's amazing to see how, different ways that actors get into it. I always like to get my shoes sorted out. I remember when I was playing Hamlet and she said, how do you want to prepare? And I said, I just want to get my shoes right and my hair right. And then I feel like I'll be right. And that was pretty much the most fearsome process I've ever been through in terms of constructing a character as an actor. Because it's such an infamous play and in the lead up, and when I got the job, everyone was kind of angry at me because I haven't had an acting lesson, I've never been a nighter, I don't know what I'm doing. And then this director offered me the role of Hamlet, and all the other guys were like, right, of course, and very upset at me. And I was scared, but I didn't want to go and watch everyone else. I didn't want to read anything about it. I just wanted to discover who this young guy was, and even though I had all this academia and all these theories on the whole, I just thought this guy lost his dad, and he's in a big building, and he feels incredibly alone, and he's a teenager, and he doesn't trust anyone. I thought about Prince William and Prince Harry when Diana died, and I thought, what would it have been like for those boys to walk through those hallways, and you have those weird old guys that are hanging around, and they say, come on boy, let's go shoot some plates, or let's go shoot a deer, you know, that'll sort you out. I thought how hard and how lonely it would be for these guys in these enormous buildings trying to deal with being a teenager is hard enough. And I found that if I approached it as a young man, I thought about my nephews, you know, becoming teenagers and how they'd feel. And then it was just easy. I thought, I know this bloke, you know, and then the rest kind of sorted itself out. And Hamlet for me was very much about a guy trying to find people to trust. And when you're grieving, you don't know who to trust. When you have any extreme feeling, you don't know who to trust. Yeah. Anyway, then I went on. I did this movie called Noise, which was about a young cop with tinnitus, and that was very interesting for me because I was playing a character who was the opposite of me, and he was very much a passenger, and he very much didn't like any kind of confrontation, which is not like me at all, and so I had to find a kind of completely different rhythm to him, and a guy who has a loud ringing noise in his ear the whole time, and so I went around with my iPod with this ringing noise in my head for like weeks. And then I just thought, God, this is really annoying, this sound. So I turned it off, and I had eye tinnitus or whatever. And I thought, you know, these guys don't have the, I guess the opportunity to turn off the tinnitus. But finding a way into that to a character who was nothing like me was very interesting. But I don't know, I think somewhere in the warehouse of ourselves, I think when we're 12, we do have nurses and doctors and killers and victims, and everyone is in us. And that's why I don't believe there's any such thing as the black soul. I think we are all those people. It's just the lives that we lead. And it's terrifying being a writer and actor because you go and access them all and you wake them all up. And it's hard sometimes to put them back to sleep. Anyway. People in storytelling talk about what's the most important thing, character or story. What's the most important thing? I think character is story. What characters do, how they behave, what they do when they get in situations where they're not getting what they want. That is the story, and that's what we very much want to watch. Anyway, I could go on and on, but is there anyone have any questions that you want me to answer?
Brendan, you do so many things. I was wondering, with your writing, your directing, acting, film, television, do you compartmentalise them, or do you just kind of, you're doing some of that stuff all the time, you're dipping into it?
Yeah, I've calmed down a bit. Last year I kind of stopped because I was doing too much of everything, and now I want to, you know, really address a certain genre or a certain science and really just be in it for a while. And now I'm obsessed with movies. I'm just watching movies, thinking about movies, studying movies, writing movies. And that's what I love about the career that I've had, is I've been able to step into all these different worlds and learn as much as humanly possible and try to write a really good book, TV series, play. It is really hard. The one thing that you come back to, though, is the same, and it is to be authentic and be honest to an audience, you know, and be brave. And I think I am brave. And I think once I became brave, it became a lot easier than being not brave, if that makes any sense. And but now, you know, I would find it hard to juggle all those things at once. And I am finding to do a couple of things really well is working out a lot better, you know, in the long run. And people always used to say to me, I don't know how you do 7 things at once. And now I'm actually going, what the hell was I thinking that whole time? You know, it was mad. But I've always felt like the world is running away and we're running out of time, and I have to live everything now, tell a lot of stories. And I've always had a lot in me. Always felt I've had too much in me and a lot to say. And it's and the world's so full of ideas and conflicts and interesting things. There's so much out there to talk about, you know. But it's so nice to disappear into the dark world of theatre for a few months and come out and just explore it, because you have time. And if you've got good theatre actors, you're just talking about ideas for 5 weeks. TV, you go in, you go, shall we rehearse? And they go, you stand there, pick up the coffee cup on that line, then walk out. We'll just shoot it now, right? I've got 20 minutes. And we're losing, and you're out of there. And it's there's something really nice about TV in that way, because you develop your muscles and you get in there and you go, and often your instincts are fantastic. Scene looks good, but you don't get another take and you're out of there. And then the people in the theatre, they've got another 3 weeks to talk about the possibilities of that scene. So, you know. But it's not like having a slow roast like lamb shank and going to McDonald's. I don't think the food, you know, they can both be wonderful, but they're different sciences, but that's what's kind of great about them.
Sorry, you pick up different personalities through your characters. How much do you keep? And do you have to be careful how much you take with you? I mean, how much of the real Brendan Cowell is left before you started him?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the characters do stay with you for a while, especially post-Hamlet depression. That was kind of hard. But that was more because it was like the pinnacle of my life. And I think that's the danger of goals. You set them, you achieve them. What the fuck do you do now, you know? And so I just try not to set them. I try to set amazing challenges for yourself and go down different avenues of this, you know, complicated tapestry of a world that we're living in. Hamlet for me, I put so much pressure on myself that I think when it was over, I wasn't interested in anything anymore, you know, and that was the hard thing. But yeah, but I quite like the character staying with you as well, because you kind of become this other person and you learn a different part of yourself, and sometimes you go, I might stay rocking a bit of this actually. This is quite nice, you know. I hope that was vaguely interesting. Thank you very much for coming.